Welcome to a Fifth Jack Gaming, where today we're going to do a book review. That's right, a book review. We got the Compendium of Invincible, Compendium number 1. Went down, read it, and it's super exciting. But before that, we're going to give you a brief synopsis of the channel. So we ended up going over Ami/book reviews is that we're going over, like we're doing today. We have our weekly poll. We have what's coming up next week for the comic books. And then we also dive into the Magic the Gathering world with deck text, pack openings, and stuff like that. And there's also various other things that we can end up doing. If that's something that interests you, hit that little subscribe button. While you're right over there, you might as well hit the bell to be notified about whenever we come out with new content. So, with that said, let's dive into the world of Invincible. This is Invincible that we're diving into, made by Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker, and Ryan Ottley. Kirkman is known for Invincible, Walking Dead, and Ryan. This is kind of like the big old thing for Ryan Ottley. It's also a Netflix or Amazon Prime series that has it. It's been guaranteed for 3 different seasons, so we're going to be seeing some craziness that's going to be coming from Prime as well. A quick synopsis of the story is that he starts off being in high school the senior year, gets his powers at the age of 17, and then he ends up having the stipulations that they have with one another, going through the high school drama, stuff like that, kind of like a Spider-Man-esque thing that goes along with it. Has a couple different characters that crosses over decently with it. You have scenes with Savage Dragon. And then you also have a quick splash in with the Marvel things when he actually dashes in with Spider-Man and Doc Ock fighting with one another. And introduces a pretty interesting cast as well. We end up having a cast of Adam Eve, which is when she's into her regular civil stuff. This is her right here. Let me see if I can get one with her in the costume a little bit more. But they start off with a team off and everything. They feel like there's a little chemistry there, but nothing actually ends up coming over at that point because Eve is with a character called Rex. But then down the road and everything, Rex ends up cheating on Eve with multiple Kate. And then you also have the complex issue where there's the fallout that's coming from that. And then later on in the book, Rex ends up getting cheated on with multiple Kate, with Immortal Man and stuff like that. This is actually Alan. He comes over, identifies what the entire plant defenders are like, and tests them and finds out. He actually ends up talking with them on the moon to be able to see that. Then we have the parents doing the parents things when the kid's away. This is where Eve has that entire moment where she ends up finding out about Rex cheating on her with multiple Kate. And then we end up actually having the big shocking moment that will come over in this book right off the get-go is you have someone that brings the entire Guardians of the Globe together to only destroy them all. And it turns out to be Omni-Man, which is Mark's dad. He has the big moment and everything, and this is where Eve ends up coming over, reconciling, and trying to talk over with Mark about what just happened. And she's all sympathy and breaking down everything, trying to go over and saying how Rex ended up cheating on him or on her with multiple Kate and stuff like that. They didn't even try covering it up or anything like that. If you watch the cartoon and everything, they actually go a little bit more in depth with it because there's a lot of stuff that's done off panel with this book. But his mom walks in thinking that he's doing some naughty stuff. That's right, I had to say naughty. And ends up giving him the first big talk about it, about the birds and the bees. Then we have Omni-Man that's given over the talking about how his history was, how they ended up letting him as group, not letting on that he was the one that actually caused everything that happened with that. We have kids that's digging up. And then we have the Mullen brothers that's going to actually end up helping out the story and everything, because they're going to bring back Immortal Man by reattaching his head to his body. We have tryouts for the new Guardians of the Globe, because they have to have a team that's to protect the world and everything that comes over with it. Rex, being the insensitive self, tries to pick on this little girl, and this little girl just owns him hardcore, because it actually ends up becoming Monster Girl, who ends up rocking his world, and not in a good way. Having a fight and everything, and then Mr. Robotic ends up releasing who they are. Eve is coming over to try confessing how she cares about Mark, but this is where Mark and Amber start hooking up with one another. And this is also the next thing, because this is what this thing kind of does. It works a little bit on one story, then comes over to another. But it's kind of more like an organic way that it's doing it. It's not like a jarring way where you're going to be like, oh my God, what just happened? Just a dash enough to be able to keep it all together. To get the head back together to the body, and then he goes berserk. We have a little battle that's going on with one another. Omni-Man's facing this little Kraken-like thing. Well, when I say little, it's not really little. And this is where the big moment comes around. That comes to another shocking moment that turns everything upside down for Mark. Immortal Man's attacking Omni-Man. And then Mark comes over in the process, seeing that the fight was going on. He comes over, and just in time to see his dad put his arm right through the chest of Immortal Man and separates him. And this is where Omni-Man is trying to convince Mark to come over to his side, and how it's part of his history, how he's supposed to be destroying the defenses for the world to prep it for the Vemonites to be able to take over the entire planet and put it into their empire. And how he was set here and everything, and that he ended up falling in love with his wife at the current time. And that's how they end up coming together. And then she keeps on trying to convince Mark to go over to this side. And this is where Mark's like, no, I'm not coming over. Setting up for the big moment that they end up actually fighting one another. So the big thing about Verminites and everything is that they get stronger as they get older. So obviously Mark's not going to have a chance with his dad because he's the older one out of the bunch and everything. But he tries to hold his own, trying to defend everything that's going on with that. Tries to defend the Earth and keeps it going. To a point where they keep on fighting, wrecking, going back and forth. And now you see hesitation because he keeps on talking about how he loves him, how his mom loves him, how everyone loves him and calls him dad. And it finally cracks through where he now has hesitation. And that hesitation makes him run off from the planet. Trying to preserve. And the big thing about this is now he's abandoning the cause that he was sent here to do. So now he's going to become one of those people that's going to be running away and everything, trying to set it up. The government comes over, picks him up. Everyone sees the shock and everything that comes with it. He eventually recovers after a couple weeks. It actually got to a point where it actually pushed back graduation a couple weeks and everything because of the destruction that was between one another that ended up happening. We end up seeing that the government's trying to put back Immortal Man back together. So obviously if he gets beaten up and everything, he just lives. He's just going to be one of those things that just lives for whatever. You see Alan that's out there talking to him, and it's like a first time realization that Barman ended up leaving. Or I can't even say the names right. What I'm going to keep on saying, it's the first time that's actually happened, so he's going back and reporting that to his consul. got the funny scenes when he ends up having to hook up with the queen of the fish people that's over in that way, because they ended up taking out the king and stuff like that, but then they end up figuring out a way to be able to convince this guy to be able to take his spot, because he actually cares for the queen, and that's when the hookup comes over with it. Eve, Jane, William, and it goes over with that, realizes that she's a superhero. It's kind of a little neat cover that has it all going over with her, with Invincible, Spawn, Savage Dragon, and Witchblade. End up having people together, figuring it out. It's talking about other things that happen in other worlds. I'm trying to keep this down for a little bit thing over within, just covering the main big parts of it. So we got Mars, where he actually goes over, protects the people of Mars, and they actually end up getting captured, and they end up pulling them out, saving them, and getting them back to Earth. But it ends up being one of them isn't a human, the other one is a Martian that ends up shape-shifting into him, and the one guy ends up staying back that's actually taking over. That's got to be another little plot device at the end. Titan tries getting his attention to be able to help him, try to get him out from underneath Metalhead. And then in the process, they end up having a battle. And this Battle Cat, holy smokes, beats the crap out of Mark. And then beats the crap of Black Samson in another one and everything. And beats him down to a really pulp. The big moment when Eve realizes and breaks up with William. The main reason that she was with William was to be close to Mark. Mark is now with Amber, so it's kind of like a little awkward of things, because when they were trying to get together, Mark was with Eve and he was going to try to get in with it. Or Mark wasn't with Eve, but Mark wanted to get with Eve, but Eve was with Rex. And now it's kind of like a reverse situation where Mark's with Amber, but Eve wants to get with Mark. So it's kind of that little love circle that's going over with it. And then you have this little rich guy over here that tries making the Reanimin. And actually, he ends up kidnapping one of their friends, Rick, knocks him out, and turns him into one of those Reanimin. The big reveal for Amber, where she ends up actually confirming that he's invincible, superhero and everything. And this is where you end up seeing him working on Rick right here to make him into a Reanimin. It's going to be an army killing machine. And they keep on talking about it, blah, 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 story, what's happening throughout their life. And now they're getting set up to do the adult things with the birds and the bees. And that's where I kind of like how they end up switching this out. Like how they had, and so, dear reader, we turn our attention elsewhere to give the young couple Mark Grayson and Amber Arnett some privacy. So it ends up following Alan and what's going on with Alan himself. So it's kind of neat because it gives it a little background to Alan and how he has a relationship that's like a forbidden relationship that shouldn't be over. And it continues on doing the coolness of doing stuff off panel, because it's like, oh, we'll just wait for them to get done with it. And they go over with it and wait, and then come over with it when they're eating, where he gets attacked by the vermin to find out what the story is behind the planet thing, and they utterly destroy him. Luckily, he was able to bring them back together, reattach his eye and stuff like that, because if you look in the fight, he has his eye that's floating right there, his guts that's already outside, and holy crap, but they bring him back, and in the process, he actually becomes stronger for it. This is going to be the scene when he sets up for his first arch rival that actually goes over and knows everything and goes over and actually has their big, like, I like to call it like a Shredder moment where they end up actually making, like, I hate you. You did this to me when you actually did it to yourself. And see, this is what he ended up doing. He's like, I'm ugly, did this and this and this. And now we're coming back over to the origins and everything. This is kind of neat because this also gives you a little bit more information about the characters themselves. So this covers for Monster Girl. This explains why she's cursed and how she got cursed. And then we come over to Rex, to how he became who he is. Immortal Man, how explaining the story and everything. Now this is where Immortal Man and Multiple K is still are together and everything that goes along with that. They actually end up cheating, or Multiple K ends up actually cheating on, or Duplicate Kate. Oh, I guess I've been saying it wrong the entire time. Whoopsies, there's my David moment. But Duplicate Kate ends up actually cheating on Rex with Immortal Man. And ends up going right down the thing that he shouldn't have done that. He should have messed with, he should have stayed with Eve and not cheated on her and all that other jazz. But this is setting up where they have duplicates of one another. This breaks down for Adam and Eve, or Adam Eve. The big old origins with it. And then we come back right over to the battle. This is where they have Science Dog, which it actually ends up being a costume for these Mantis people, to bring him over to help out with their planet. He has to run over, has to go help them out. Takes the time away from the Earth and everything to have the big reveal that his dad has taken over the Earth, or their planet, and is protecting it and everything. While doing that, he finds out something else that comes along with it, and he goes through that big emotional distress that comes with it. The entire reason what ended up happening, he was gone from Earth for a week, and then they end up finding this entire species that they lived their entire life within 7 months. And then kind of neat thing is that they don't come up with a name until they become adults, so they come up with their own name. But he ended up testing out, seeing it, making sure it's his dad. And then they finds out that his dad's kind of replaced his mom with one of them, and that he has a half-brother. And this is where he finds out that they're coming over looking for his dad because he ended up abandoning his post, where that's a big no-no. You keep on fighting, there's protecting the wife and stuff like that. Almost get him, and then Omni-Man comes over, takes them out, saves them from being over with that. Meanwhile, there's also a fight going on with that they're away, but they all take out pretty much the entire big group of them. And now his dad's ended up going to rage and is about ready to go crazy about it. And this is where they have to fight with one another, set it up. And this is actually the part where Mark ends up taking over the mantle of having to groom over Earth, and has 100 years to be able to take it over. His dad ends up getting his back broken, and they actually end up, right about here is when they end up breaking it down and trying to set it up for him to take over Earth. And his dad's being hauled off right there to go over for punishment. Has to let the lady know that he failed. He gets the city back together. And this is when they realize, like, hey, we go so quickly, I'm not going to be able to protect my kid. I need you to protect him and take him with you. And he ends up taking it back over there, and actually brings it back over, and eventually his mom ends up adopting him, and has the entire process of regrowing up and everything, making the brother and everything that goes along with that. Cecil, which is their big government person, tries helping them out, sets them up with a tutor, technologies are going to help out to make sure that they don't see the purple skin that's on the kid. Yeah, I know, purple skin. Oh, that's not like Thanos. And then they make get that entire relationship with it. And then we end up having it where a robot ends up actually seeing his body, who ends up taking over control of the one robot. And he actually wants to clone a new body from it, and he ends up cloning it from Rex because he starts having a caring thing for Monster Girl, so it makes it a younger version of Rex, which throws him off. A shapeshifter. This is when they go visit Africa. Eve actually invites Mark, but then Mark ends up coming over and bringing over Amber, which is who she's with. And they try making the most of it and everything that goes along with it. And it comes over to the big moment where his first arch rival comes over, has his mom, beats up his mom, has his younger brother and stuff like that, and how they made good time. And they go over and they start battling one another. So the big thing that he's able to do, he's able to send people over to different dimensions himself and stuff like that. And in the battle, he ends up sending them over to like the dinosaurs, Marvel, there's Spider-Man, there's Doc Ock. Comes back, he ends up having the spider web actually that comes right over there, which I thought was a nice little touch. Walking Dead, Batman, and you keep on going at one another, where eventually Mark ends up losing his emotions and actually beats the snot out of him and actually kills him. That's Amber and Amber and Eve coming back. He's still dealing with the shock of it, of killing them for the first time, and he kind of ended up having to do it because they just kept on going. But then this is also the scene where you have the younger Rick body, and then you have the body of the one kid, and he actually asks them to take him out because it's actually, our atmosphere is poisonous for him, and he ends up dying in the process. And that's a little deeper story that goes along with it. But it takes about 15 years for the Guardians of the Globe to actually find a way to be able to bring him back. And the big thing with that is that there's Eve, which is an older version of her. And this is where that she actually tells him about the feelings that she has for him. And this is where it sets off the complex issue between Mark, Eve, and Amber, creating a little triangle for a heartbreak, or for a moment. So now this is where it's a common complex, and then he's like, I don't know what I should do, trying to figure it out, making sure his parent is all right. This is when the tutor comes in, battling, training, trying to get stronger. The situation with Amber, because it ends up meeting this another college guy that has a relationship that they can end up having with it being regular, two regular people being able to have that kind of relationship with one another. This is where Mark actually ends up finding out that his dad ended up writing novels, and in those novels there's ways to be able to deal with the Venomire or Venomites and be able to actually take them out. So that's where he ends up becoming an all-quest story about it, reading it. This is where I had a little bit of a harder time with it because it's a different art, and it just didn't gel with me as well. The Regimen. This is where the big story comes over, because they end up setting it up where William ends up being the prey and being set over for it and finding out where they are. And this is where he releases them, protects them, and they find out that Rick was actually taken and being used as one. Actually ends up breaking the rich guy's jaw and wants to do farther, but then stops. The big fallout because they ended up having, or Amber had the college guy in there, so the little jealousy came out. He gets offered a job, the rich man, And then Alan also finds out through the process of this healing, he's actually became bigger and stronger. The big thing that Vermimite is what the boss of the console is. And it's kind of like a little shocking and all moment. And that Alan, there's a spy that's in there, so Alan has to report directly to him. His friends, or Amber's friends, trying to break him up. They go out on dates and stuff like that. Eve and them kiss. So what eventually happens is Mark's like, I can't do this. I have a girlfriend. I like you, but I like her. Blah, blah, blah. Tells her that she's going off doing a mission to protect the Earth. He goes over, they're trying to protect the Earth, and then at the same time you have this little serpent thing that's coming over, that's attacking. So you have two split groups. And you're seeing a flashback back and forth. Duplicate is actually now married over to Immortal. Through some ninjutsu, or through some inventive thinking, they figure out ways to get past it, get through it. Destroys the entire group, so thinks about it. And this is where the big breakup happens. Playing catch, home initiative when the Omni Man and him was playing catch. And one of my favorite panels right here is, oh, I've been told that you're single. When are we going out? When are we dating? This is kind of like the entire Spider-Man and Mary Jane moment where, face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot. That's that moment for this entire story. They don't end up going out yet. I have a feeling it's going to happen, but then Environment goes over, tests and puts him pretty much on his place and everything, gives him a warning of like, hey, I know you just said 100 years, but I might be here in 5, might be here thing. Hopefully you change your mind and you go for us instead of against us. And then the big shocking, this is actually Omni-Man, that he thinks he misses his wife. His wife's kind of moved on into another relationship. So it's going to be a nice little shock and awe with that. And then Drupa Kate comes back because Drupa Paul is beating the crap out of Rex. And then Titans obviously back in charge of everything. Will's trying that. And that rocks it over. And that brings us over to the end of Volume 1. I'm going to end up having Volume 2 coming down. Hopefully I can figure out a way to make this a little bit quicker, because I feel like it's a little bit longer than what it needs to be. So maybe next time we can get it or be a little bit quicker on the snap. And that was Invincible Compendium 1. All right, that was fun and action-packed, wasn't it? It was an amazing book. It's definitely something I would suggest reading. Pick up your copy of Invincible. They have a couple different versions. We're now affiliated with OPB, or again at PriceBooks.com. Whenever you go to checkout, put the code of 5th of Jack in there, and you'll be able to save $2 off your order. Doing it. What did you think of it? Have you read Invincible? What's something that you're reading? Let us know down in the comments down below. Look down in the future, because we're going to be reading the 2nd and 3rd. So we're going to read the complete story. Hopefully I'm as psyched as I am when I finish this guy. If you're liking the content that we're putting out, like, subscribe, and hit that little bell to be notified about any future content. Thank you for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later.